If you remember vibrating Peter, terrible New York drivers, and saving invisible hostages, then you grew up playing Spider-Man 3 the game. But which one? Because there were 4 completely different versions released across 8 different consoles, and in this video we're going to compare each of them. Let's begin with the flagship version released for the PC, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. Just like its 2 predecessors, this game starts with a tutorial narrated by Bruce Campbell.
I'm sorry, am I going too fast for you?
This time around, the tutorial is framed around Spidey trying to stop the H-Bombers gang from attacking this office building. The controls and gameplay are similar to the last game. There are a few new additions like the Spidey Sense, which gives you X-ray vision. Control-wise, Spider-Man can feel a bit jittery sometimes. Peter, you want to maybe run out of the fire? And of course, it wouldn't be a game from 2007 without heavy usage of QuickTime events and questionable character models. My god, what happened to that poor woman's face? I genuinely failed the QuickTime event the first time I saw her.
I'm going to die!
With the tutorial over, the game opens up the sandbox of Manhattan. And of course, it wouldn't be a Spider-Man game without some web swinging, something the last game really nailed down. Unfortunately, this time around, the web swinging just feels loose and a bit flimsy, which is a bit baffling. Why take something that works and break it? The next-gen graphics also leave a bit more to be desired. I know this was one of the earlier 7th-gen console games, but come on, look at this. The streets are barely habitable. They look like something out of I Am Legend, and some of these buildings look like they've got no textures at all. The game does this trick where it makes it seem like there are loads of people from a distance, but then you get a bit closer and realize there are only like 4 3D models. Viewers from New York, can you confirm that every car on the streets has to be a Crown Victoria? Is this like the law? Okay, so where do I go now? Oh, Jesus, hey, I'm walking here. The taxi drivers in this game have no chill. Look, this one just keeps pushing old Spidey all the way down 6th Avenue. The camera is also pretty bad. It's either stuttering all over the place or locks onto the most unflattering angles. What kind of Spidey power is this? This game leans into the GTA mission sandbox structure when it comes to its story. There are a bunch of different storylines, most of them having nothing to do with the movie, that you can play through by going to different icons throughout the city and playing the missions. For example, we have the Daily Bugle missions. Parker! Oh my god, JJ, what's wrong with your neck? They're all centered around Peter photographing stuff, like this beauty contest, which ends with Spider-Man having to beat up all of the contestants. You get these H-bombers who are, you guessed it, always trying to blow something up. If I don't disarm the bomb, something terrible is gonna happen, but first I really need the toilet. You know what's really fun? Undoing screws. Yeah, there are quite a lot of these basic puzzles in this game, so enjoy. You also get these MJ Thrill Ride missions, which involve Peter taking her across town while she barks commands at him.
Swing up real high! Stay as high up as you can!
Geez, just pay for a damn cab, I'm breaking my back here. There are also a bunch of missions which involve Spidey working with the police to take down gangs and criminals. Oh no, the thugs are getting away. Oh, this damn camera. Stop, evildoers! Alright, I'll just follow them on foot while they slowly cruise down the street. Hey, what happened to smashing the windscreen like in the last game? Oh right, it's a QuickTime event, of course. Wow, this police officer is a real asshole. Look, he won't give me a lift to the crime scene, and then he runs me over, and then crashes into this tree. But my favorite crazy filler mission has to be the one where this old Asian guy is running around like a headless chicken while these dudes shoot rocket launchers at him. You then take down a helicopter and it almost crashes into the poor lady from the start. There is also a mission where you rescue one of the infamous invisible New Yorkers. Yeah, the glitches in this game are something else. For example, we have this mission where these Mortal Kombat looking thugs crash into a car and then start attacking the driver, but half of the time they just crash into him and don't do anything. The game doesn't freeze or anything, they just stand there kicking the tires on the car. Now of course, Spider-Man's rogues gallery of villains does make an appearance. We get a couple of missions involving Kurt Connors, who not only turns into the Lizard, but creates an army of these slimy buggers who all live inside a giant hemorrhoid in the sewers. There's also a Scorpion storyline which has Spidey break him out of the research lab. Unfortunately, Scorpion then channels his inner Sonic the Hedgehog hedgehog and runs away. You track him down to the bridge and do a boss fight. And of course the Kingpin, Kraven and the Rhino also make an appearance. The game also has some of the lesser known Spider-Man villains, like this Luke Carlisle guy who dresses up as Buzz Lightyear. After playing a dozen of these filler missions, you will be rewarded with an actual story event from the movie, like this boss fight against snowboarding Harry Osborn. And when I say boss fight, I really mean an extended QuickTime sequence. Oh no, my identity as Spider-Man has been blown! Oh, and look, nobody cares. Oh, big deal, you're Spider-Man, now get your ass off the road! And then we're back to doing more filler missions. Look, I know the plot of the movie is difficult to adapt into an action game. The first two games struggle with this too, but at least it felt like they were trying to expand on the movie's story and characters. Spider-Man 3, the game, is filled with missions that have nothing to do with the movie. In fact, there are 42 missions in this game and only 6 of them are related to the movie's plot. If you take those out, this could have been a completely original Spider-Man game. The wacky pedestrian side quests from the second game have, for the most part, been replaced with a bunch of different gangs that you have to fight to clear the city's crime map. I appreciate that they tried something new, but unfortunately it loses a lot of the charm from the second game. You do get new moves and upgrades, but they're automatically unlocked as you progress through the game, instead of having to buy select ones like in the second game. And speaking of upgrades, yes, you do get the black suit, but not until about 2/3 of the way through the game. It's faster, the attacks are more powerful, and it gives Peter the ability to vibrate through space-time. And it gives him an extra sassy attitude.
What's gotten into you lately?
Nothing that stopping your gums from flapping wouldn't solve.
The final boss fight is broken up into several sections. We start with this Venom fist fight, but then in a surprise twist we get to play as Harry on the snowboard. Whoa, sorry, hold on, oh crap. God, this goblin business is harder than it looks. Eventually, Harry does arrive at the construction site. He spends a few hours stuck in a quick time loop against the Sandman before peeing on him. This is followed by some more quick time events and then some pumpkin bomb spamming. We then cut back to Peter for one last fight against Venom and one last quick time sequence. And that's it. And look, as soon as the credits end, the game just spawns Peter plummeting down and pancaking into the concrete, which is an apt metaphor for this game. Alright, let's move on to the next version released for the PlayStation 2, Wii and PSP. This one is another sandbox action game that uses the PlayStation 2 version of Spider-Man 2 as the framework. I actually prefer the web swinging mechanics in this version compared to the flagship, but they're still not as good as Spider-Man 2. The gang crime fighting mechanic is also a major part of this game's sandbox, but this time around there is a turf map made up of all the different gangs in the city, which I also prefer to the color-coded streets of the flagship. The campaign structure is a lot more streamlined. Most of the time this game will have you going from one central mission to another, but most of this game is still centered around the same plot lines as the flagship. I would say plot-wise the biggest difference to this version is the addition of Michael Morbius. A chunk of the story revolves around Peter and John F. Kennedy trying to help cure Morbius and his very, very hairy chest. Oh, I better hurry up and get Morbius to the facility before the sun comes up. Whoops, sorry Michael. This plotline culminates in Morbius's crazy girlfriend making you fight phantom versions of Peter's friends. Look at all of them just skating around. I never thought I'd see a wheel-kicking Jameson. This version does have a bunch of original cutscenes which are used to connect the new plot, and further show off Peter's sassy attitude thanks to the symbiote.
Hello? MJ? What do you want? No, I haven't found out anything. Don't call back!
Just like in the flagship, the black suit gives you more power and speed, however there is a trade-off. Wearing it for too long will literally kill Peter. And you have to do a quick time event just to rip it off, plus there is a cooldown timer until you can wear it again. The ending is also a bit different.
I realized that you didn't kill my father.
And the developers didn't have time to animate my face, so I'll be keeping the mask on the whole time. There's no goblin section, instead Peter takes on both Venom and Sandman back to back, with some assists from Harry. Now, the PlayStation 2, Wii, and PSP versions are, for the most part, identical. The Wii version, of course, has mandated motion controls for combat, replacing the main attack with waggle. So if you want to spend 6 hours doing this, then this is the version for you. It does also try to map the web swinging onto the nunchuck and Wiimote. I appreciate the effort, but I prefer the PlayStation 2 controls as they felt a lot more precise. But to me, the PlayStation Portable version is the most impressive, especially when compared to the the PSP version of Spider-Man 2, which was a slightly reworked version of the first game. This time around, the developers have crammed the entire PlayStation 2 game into a UMD. Sure, the textures have taken a bit of a drop in quality, but come on, that's to be expected. And speaking of handhelds, let's move on to the Nintendo DS version. Just like its predecessor, this is a 2.5D side-scroller which has Spider-Man turning loads and loads of corners. However, this time around, the developers decided to rely exclusively on touchscreen gestures for the combat. This version also tries to incorporate the gang crime fighting mechanic, but in order to compensate for the lack of an open-world sandbox, the city has been split into several main areas, each one acting as a hub for the story missions and gangs in the area. There are about 14 missions covering some of the key moments and boss fights from the flagship, and just like all the other versions, you do get the black suit, and it does give Spider-Man a bit more pep. The final boss fight has you taking on both Sandman and Venom at the same time. And finally, we have the Game Boy Advance version. This one is also very similar to the first two Game Boy games. It's a 2D side-scroller which has you save hostages and beat up bad guys who all look like the Fonz. Unfortunately, there's no 3D web-swinging sections this time around, but at least Peter does get the black suit pretty early on. It makes Spidey stronger, lets him dash, but you lose it as soon as you take damage. Now, some of the 2D perspectives in this game can be a bit weird. Come on, Peter, just turn slightly right. This one also hits on all the major beats from the flagship, but for some reason Sandman looks more like Butterman. Look, he turns his fists into two big sticks of butter and then just melts. The final level starts with you having to escape the rising quicksand, and then take on Venom, aka Topless Eddie Brock. And so there we have it, every version of Spider-Man 3 the game. Now, I think most fans would agree that these were a step down from the second game. The flagship version just feels unfinished with the wacky camera, flimsy web swinging, and lackluster graphics. I appreciate them trying something new with the crime wave mechanic, but swinging from block to block beating up the same generic goons kind of lost a lot of the charm from the second game. I would actually say the PlayStation 2 version is an overall better game. Sure, it doesn't have the HD graphics, but it does a better job of streamlining the gameplay and was definitely a lot less buggy, even if it didn't live up to the heights of its predecessor. But that's just my take. Please let me know your thoughts and memories of the Spider-Man 3 tie-in games in the comments. Which version was your favorite? This concludes the Raimi trilogy of games, but there are still plenty of other Spider-Man games out there. So if you'd like me to make videos about those games, then please leave a comment below. As always, thanks for watching. Please consider supporting me on Patreon, and a big thanks to all my existing patrons. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.